Can you stop? So we're covering what you need to do for 7E.1. Can you remember to shares? We did capital gains. Just like with capital gains, interest earned on an investment is a type of income, so the government's going to tax it. Thus, we need to acknowledge that any earnings from interest are reduced according to your overall income, according to tax brackets. Exactly like we did for capital gains. But do you remember with capital gains, if we held the shares for longer than a year, did it affect the amount of tax that we paid? It halved it. There's none of that here. Okay? So it's less formulae. So it's without the concept of the amount changing based on how long the shares were held. That does not apply here. So what are your steps for tax on an investment? Step 1, first you need to find your overall income from all sources. Usually this is your job and any interest earned. So your overall income is equal to your job income plus interest income. Then you can decide what tax bracket you will fall under using a tax table. You do not need to copy this tax table. This is out of date anyway. The tax tables are changing this year because of your Labor government. There's not 5 anymore, there's only 4. And also you'll be told what the tax rates are in your test and for the exam. So don't copy the table. I'm just showing it because that's the tax table you're going to use on page 188 of your textbook to answer the questions. Step 3, you calculate the tax on the interest earned using this formula here. Very similar to what you did last time. And then step 4, you calculate the after-tax return, which is the interest. Take away the tax on the interest. Can you please get those 3 formulas in bold? After-tax return, tax on interest, and overall income. And then I'll do an example with Liam here. Then we'll go into inflation. So a couple of minutes. Did any of you need a graphics calculator for today? Have them back today, please. So this is extremely reminiscent of capital gains tax. Literally the only difference is that we don't have that situation. We're holding the shares for more than a year, messes around with it. All we care about is the tax on the interest you earn on an investment. One more minute and then I'll go through the example. Oh, we've got teachception here. Now let's have a look at Liam. Calculate the amount of interest earned. Does TVM Solver, do any of these variables tell you the interest earned? No, that's the interest rate. FV tells you what it grows to. PV tells you what it started at. So none of these variables actually tell you what the interest is, but the difference between FV and PV is. So we need to solve for FV. Liam invested $5,000. So what's PV going to be? Good, excellent. Negative 5,000 because he's putting that $5,000 that was in his pocket in the bank. The account pays 4%. So what should I make I? No, there's no conversion on TVM Solver. You just put it as 4. Yep. PMT, does it say anything about him making regular payments? No, he's just putting $5,000 in there and leaving it alone. So PMT is going to be 0. Compounded half yearly. So how many times does a half year happen in a year? Twice. So Py and Cy are going to be the same. Now I can work out N, which is for 3 years, but happening twice a year. So that's going to be 6. So I'm going to put in everything that I know for negative 5,000 to alpha solve. So that tells me FV is going to be 5630.81 rounded to 2 decimal points. So how much interest? Interest is $630.81. Why? Because they put in $5,000 in the first place. That interest represents an income for Liam. So what's the government going to do to some of that? Tax it. So B, given that Liam earns $18,000 a year from his current job, how much tax must he pay on the interest? Be careful. I might have chosen this example specifically to try to fool you. If he earns $18,000 a year, which tax bracket is he in? Yep. But is he earning money somewhere else? Where's that other source? What's that? Interest. The interest. Is that $630.81 going to push him into a tax bracket? So, good. Total income is actually $18,630.81. So, tax bracket of 19%. So B, given that Liam, how much tax must he pay? So tax on interest equals the interest amount, $630.81, times by the tax rate as a decimal. What's 19% as a decimal? 0.19. Calculator, second quit. 630.81 times by 0.19. $119.85 to 2 decimal points. C, calculate Liam's after-tax return on the investment. How much money was he supposed to get if the government had nothing to do with it? Good. But do we know how much the government's taking? 119. So the difference after-tax return is going to be 630.81. Take away $119.85. 0.81 minus $119.85. So he's only going to take home $510.96. Can you get that example down, please? I'll stop recording.